So we have reduced our code a lot, but still if you see that we have to write these 3 lines in every code. Suppose we want to do create operations. So these are the codes that we have to write explicitly, because these codes are different in every line. We have to provide different values, but these line of codes are same from where we are getting our session factory through Hibernate util dot get session factory. It will give the session factory, and then we are with this object, session factory object, we are using this open session method, and then we are beginning our transaction. So these 3-4 lines of code, and also from these lines where we used to commit and close the resources and the exception handlings, these are the codes that are getting repeated in every operations that we are trying to do. So if we want to do create operation in our create code, we have to write these codes of getting session factory, then open session and begin transaction. So if you can see that even if we are suppose loading in our read operation, we have to write this 4 line of code again. In also this read operation, we have to first get the session factory object from the Hibernate util class, and then open the session, begin the transaction. This is same in also the case of if you want to perform delete operation. This line of codes are same, and even we have to commit and close the resources and catch the exception if it is going to arise, and if some exception is going to arise, then we have to roll back. Even these line of codes, commit, closing the resource, are same in every operations. You can see here. If you want to read, if you want to delete operation do, then these lines of code are there again and again. Is there anything we can do so we can get rid of this line of code that we have to write again and again in every operation that we want to perform? Yes, we can also do that. This is where DAO model comes in, data access object model. Data access object model. This is what DAO stands for. So basically it is a model in which we get rid of repeated line of codes, like we did in case of Hibernate configuration document. Whatever we are doing in Hibernate configuration document, we achieved that in here in Hibernate util. What we did also in Hibernate util, we have to create session factory object every time when we want to perform any operation. Suppose we are performing create, update, delete operations, then we have to create session factory by ourselves. So what we did, we are making session factory object in Hibernate util, and just by one line Hibernate util.get session factory, we are getting the session factory. Now all those 3 or 4 lines of code get reduced in a single line. So that is what we are also doing DAO model, data access object model. We are going to try that we are able to get this line of repeating code that we have to write in every time in every operations. So let's understand this DAO model with diagram. Suppose there is a client code. Suppose we are inserting our data inside table. So it is a create code. We are trying to we are trying to insert some data inside table. So what we are doing here is, in our create code, from where we want to perform create operations, we have main method. Then inside main method, what we are doing, we are transaction which have null. Then we are getting session factory from Hibernate util that we have created, and with that session we are doing open session, and with this session we are calling method to save this object of customer, and then again we are committing and closing the resources and rolling back. Instead of doing this whole line of codes in our create operation code, what we can do is we can create a different class in which we are going to give a method. Suppose we are calling this method add customer. So what this add customer is doing, it is taking customer class object, and then this is the transaction. We are again in this Hibernate DAO class. We are getting the session factory object. We are opening session, beginning the transaction, and in try we are just calling save method and passing the C. This C is coming from where? When we are going to call this method add customer, then we have to pass the customer object. So whatever object we are going to pass at the time of calling this method, this is the just method name that we can give. We can give anything when we are declaring this method name. So it is just a name convention. So whatever object, customer object we are going to give here, that is going to get saved and inserted inside our table. So in create code, in create operation, what we have to do, there is just main method in which we are making our customer object, and by using Hibernate DAO class, Hibernate dot add customer, we are calling this method. This method have to be static. So static. So when it is static, we can call it with the class name. So what we are doing here, Hibernate DAO is a class name dot, we are calling this method because it is static. So Hibernate DAO dot add customer, and we are passing the customer object. So what will happen? Here comes the customer object. Then customer object is going to get saved by the session.save inside our table. So our client code, this is our client code. This got reduced in previous practices. What we are doing when we have to do create operation, perform create operation, then first we have to get the session factory from the Hibernate util class. Then we are opening session, then we are beginning the transaction, and then in last, after using save method from the session, we have to commit and close and roll back in the catch block. So all of these things we just transferred from this create operation code to the Hibernate DAO, and inside Hibernate DAO we have add customer static method, inside which when we are going to call from the create operation code, this is the create operation code that we are doing previously, but now from here on what we did, the codes that we are writing repeatedly, we inserted all those in the Hibernate DAO. So now we have to call just Hibernate dot add customer, and add customer method is doing what? It is taking customer type object. So we are passing customer type object C1, and C1 is getting saved through the save method of session. So what is add customer? It is just a method name that we have given to it. So exactly like that, instead of writing this much of client code or the operation to perform create operation, these codes to perform create operation, instead of writing this much lines, now what we have to do whenever we are trying to perform create operation, we only have to write these codes, just one line, Hibernate dot add customer, and through add customer, inside add customer method, we have provided these all codes that we are doing previously in our previous practices of performing create operation. So likewise, what if we want to perform operation? It is the create operation. From this class we are performing create operation. What if we want to perform load operation? So for that, what we are going to do, inside this Hibernate class DAO, we made this static method add customer. Let's also make a method through which we can load the customer class. So what we can do right here is, we can add another method, that is Hibernate DAO, which is going to be static. So let's do that. Just copy and paste everything. So here we are creating a method inside Hibernate DAO, which we can perform read operation by using session.load method. So suppose, let's give a name to a method. You can see read. So we give a name read to this method, and in this method what will happen is, so what we are doing whenever we have to load some row from, so when we have to load, then we are using load method, and then we have to write the corresponding customer dot class, and then you can write, suppose I. What is this I? So inside here it is going to take I, and then it is going to return the class. So when we are running this line, this is going to return the class. So it is going to return customer cust is equal to, and in this customer what we are going to do is going to put this outside of try is equal to null, and this read method would have to return not void customer type object, which means After finally, we have to write return cust, because in cust we have customer type object. So look what is happening right here. Try block, catch block. This is finally block. What if we want to perform read operation? So what we are going to do, suppose we want to perform read operation. So let's copy this code. Here this is read code, and what we are going to do is we want to call the method that we have created right now, that is Hibernate DAO. Hibernate DAO is a class dot static read method. So read read method, and read method is taking int type value as a argument. So let's say 2. What will happen in this case? 2 goes here and our code will run, this read method will run, and in session.load customer.class will get loaded, and which row, which primary key. So we have provided primary key from the point where we are calling this read method. So at second primary key, so 2 will come here and this I will goes right here. And what it will going to return? It is going to return the customer object. So here is the customer, and in cust we have customer type object, and then we are returning this cust. So return type of read method is customer, means we are going to get customer in return. So now we can simply use SOP statement and print the customer. So this is how DAO model works. Suppose this is how create statement is working. We are just making a add customer table and passing the customer object, then that is automatically getting saved through the Hibernate DAO class and this method add customer. If we want to load any customer, if we want to read a particular customer, then we don't have to write whole read operation by our own that we are doing in previous practices like this. We don't have to do these much things. We have provided all these much things inside this method called read, and just we are from the where we are calling this method Hibernate down that read, then we are passing the primary key, it goes here, and in this method it is just loading customer class and returning the customer object that we are returning from here. So return type of this method is customer. So here in our read operation we are getting the customer. This is how DAO model works. So instead of doing this, if we want to perform create operation, we are not going to use this much code. We are going to use Hibernate DAO class, inside which we are going to make a method, and we are going to provide all these methods inside that method, and just by simply calling that method from Hibernate DAO, we are calling add customer right here in single line of code. Our customer will get inserted inside table. But right here in previous practices, to insert a customer inside a table, what we have to do, we have to write these much things. But in here, in new one, to insert customer in table, we just have to write a single line of code. We are making customer object and passing it in the add customer method inside Hibernate DAO, and it will do the job. Exactly same like if we want to perform read operation, then just a single line of code, Hibernate DAO dot read method. We are calling read method and passing the primary key of which customer we want to read. So it will get here in read method and session.load customer class, and in one primary key will come here and it will return customer object. We are returning customer object, so here we are catching customer object. What if you want to perform delete operation in this new way? So also inside Hibernate DAO we are going to create one new method, and maybe we can call that method delete customer. So inside here, just copy everything and now we have to create a new method inside Hibernate DAO class. So getting new class in Hibernate DAO, we are creating new method inside Hibernate DAO, and we are going to call this delete customer, DELET, delete customer, inside which we are going to provide customer object, because to delete, you remember session dot delete. So this is the method session dot delete, in which we are going to pass customer object. So whatever object we are going to pass right here in when we are calling delete customer method, that is come right down here, and that corresponding customer of that object is going to get deleted. Public static void add customer. It is taking customer C. Then again we have another method which is read, which is taking int read, which is taking int I. Again we have delete customer, which is taking an object of customer. So we have DELET CUSTOMER customer, which is taking customer. So what is happening here? We have an interface. We have interface that have every method. So now what we are going to do in our Hibernate DAO class, we are just going to simply implement this interface elements customer DAO. So what will happen? All these methods will automatically going to come inside our Hibernate DAO. But wait, what is wrong here is inside interface we cannot write static methods. So there is not, these are going to be static. These are not going to be static. And now when we are going to implement this customer DAO interface, then all these methods are going to come inside our Hibernate DAO. So when those methods, these three methods are going to come inside our Hibernate DAO because we are implementing customer DAO interface. These are also not going to be static. These methods are not going to be static. So what is happening? We have interface in which we have multiple methods that we write. Then we implemented that interface inside our Hibernate DAO class, and then we are overriding those methods. So we can at the time of performing CRD operation, create, read, delete, update operations, we can call these methods and do our job easily without writing this line of codes. But now it is not static. Any of these methods are not static. Read method is not static. Delete customer is not static. So we will not be able to do Hibernate DAO class dot add customer. We cannot call this add customer method with the class name. We cannot do that. So in this case, what we have to do, we have to take the help of singleton design pattern again. So suppose here is going to be one class. Here we have one class, and we are going to call this class as access DAO, ACCESSDAO, access DAO. In this, what we are doing is we are going to create the instance of Hibernate DAO. So how to do that? We have to create the instance of Hibernate DAO and also return the instance of Hibernate DAO. So we can access this method with the instance of Hibernate DAO. Instance of Hibernate DAO means object of Hibernate DAO. So first let's create method which is going to be static. So public static, which is going to return the instance of Hibernate DAO, and it will return instance of Hibernate DAO. We are going to mention this. So what should have to be happen when we are going to call this class is we have to get object of Hibernate DAO class. For that, we have to take help of a static block. So whenever we are going to call this class, automatically this static block will run. The name of the class is Hibernate DAO. Inside the static block, what we are going to do is Hibernate DAO HB is equal to new Hibernate DAO. So here is the object of Hibernate class, and this is getting stored in HB. So we have to return the HB, but this HB is inside a static block, so we have to take it out from here. We have to write Hibernate DAO HB is equal to null, and for this reference variable we have to make this static, because if it is going to be static, then only it can be called under the static block for assigning the object of Hibernate DAO. What is happening here? Whenever we are going to call access DAO class and its method, which is Hibernate DAO, this is the return type. We have to declare method get, suppose Hibernate DAO. So get Hibernate DAO is the method name, and this is the return type Hibernate DAO. So whenever we are going to call this method get Hibernate DAO with the access DAO class name, why? Because it is static. So we can call this method get Hibernate DAO with the access DAO class name. So it will give us HB. And what is inside HB? Inside HB we have Hibernate DAO object. Inside HB we have Hibernate DAO object, and this get Hibernate DAO method is returning Hibernate DAO type return. So it is returning HB. So now inside our client code, suppose we are trying to perform create operation. So instead of doing Hibernate DAO dot add customer, because add customer in Hibernate DAO is not a static method, so we can't do that. So instead of that, what we are going to do, we are going to call this singleton design pattern of class access DAO, ACCESS access DAO. Inside that, this get Hibernate DAO method get Hibernate DAO method, and what it is going to return? It is going to return Hibernate DAO class, Hibernate DAO, let's say HB. So inside HB we got Hibernate DAO class object through this HB. Now we can call this add customer method and pass the customer C1. So add customer, inside that we are passing customer object as our argument for this method add customer. So what will happen? This C customer object we are passing here C1 is going to get saved through session.save. If we want to do read operation, again we are going to use access DAO dot get Hibernate access DAO class dot get Hibernate. It will return Hibernate DAO object. It will return Hibernate DAO object, and then with that Hibernate DAO object we can call read method. You can see here we get the Hibernate DAO object. We can call the read method, and read method which is inside Hibernate DAO class. Hibernate DAO class is taking primary key, int type primary key. So suppose 5, we provided 5. So whatever customer will be there at 5, primary key is going to get extracted, and then it is returning customer. The return type of read method, return type for read method is customer. It is returning customer. So it will return customer. Exactly for delete operation, what you can do, you can access DAO. What is access DAO? Again, it is a singleton design pattern that we have created right here. with that singleton design pattern, we are going to call get Hibernate DAO method, which will return Hibernate DAO object. So when we have Hibernate DAO object, when we will get Hibernate DAO object, with this object we can call the methods inside this class. When we will get the object for this class, we can call the methods inside this class. So through the singleton design pattern, we will get access the singleton design pattern class, through which we are calling get Hibernate DAO. Inside access DAO class, we have get Hibernate DAO method, which is returning Hibernate DAO class object. When we get Hibernate DAO class object, we can call its methods. So with that HB, we can call get customer method. So this is how DAO layer works, DAO model works. So let me do this for your understanding. This 3 code comes here, and this DAO layer, not DAO layer, this singleton design pattern comes here. So how everything is happening? Let me tell you again. In previous practices, if we want to perform create operation, then we have to write this much line of code by ourselves. But what we did, we created a Hibernate DAO class inside which we have declared some methods, in which method we have declared all repetitive codes. So only by calling this method, all those repetitive codes will be called automatically. We don't have to write a time. And again, we have interface in which we have methods. This interface is getting implemented by Hibernate DAO class. So all these methods came here. Now to access these methods, when these methods come here from interface, we override all these methods as our business logic, and we put all the repeated codes inside these methods, these 3 methods. And to access these methods, what we are doing, because Hibernate DAO is the class, so we must have object of this class in order to call these methods, because these methods are not static. So we are taking help of singleton design pattern, which is returning Hibernate DAO class object. This is Hibernate DAO class, and its object, this object is returned by this access DAO. Through access DAO class, we are calling this get Hibernate DAO method, because this method is static. So access DAO dot get Hibernate DAO method, which is returning Hibernate DAO object. So in HB, we have Hibernate DAO object in static block. So here, through access DAO dot get Hibernate DAO, we are getting Hibernate DAO class object. Now we have the object of this Hibernate DAO class. We can access these methods. What else you can do? You can also remove this middle singleton design pattern class, and instead of doing this, you can simply make the object of Hibernate DAO class right here, like this. Like not taking Hibernate DAO class object from singleton design pattern. From here, you are just creating by yourself. Like this. This will also work. But these are the some common practices we do when we are working with DAO model, data access object model. Just declare some methods inside interface, then give the implementation of those methods by implementing the interface in some class, and then call that class object by using the singleton design pattern class in your client code. So these are the client codes. We are performing create operation, read operation, delete operation. So the same thing you need to do in your Eclipse IDE as the practice code, but exactly same things are going to be there if we are going to do codes in our IDE right now. So instead of that, let's not do that because it will take much time. We already have covered everything right here. You create the interface, create a class, and provide implementation for this method inside the interface by implementing this interface right here. Then access these methods through this class object in your client code. You can access these methods of this class in your client code directly by creating the object of this class, or you can take the help of singleton design pattern to get this classes object. For taking this class object, you are taking the help of this singleton design pattern. Access DAO dot get Hibernate DAO, access DAO dot get Hibernate DAO, which is giving you the object of Hibernate DAO class, through which you are again accessing the methods of this particular class. So this is all what is available inside the data access model.